have Aarti Nihalani. She's the partner and the co-head of Oliver Wyman, India. She's a PGP of 2009 batch and she's won the Young Alumni Achievers Award in the Corporate Leadership category. Aarti joined Oliver Wyman in 2009. She was one of the first consultants hired by the company when it launched its business in India. She was promoted to be a partner in 2018 and is amongst the youngest strategy consulting partners in India. She's also on the regional partnership selection committee for the company. Welcome and congratulations, Aarti.
Thank you so
How
much.
does it feel to be back in the campus?
It's always a lovely feeling to be back. I must say the campus brings back so many memories, so many fond memories. I met my husband Pratik also on the campus. He's a batchmate. I've made friends for life. And of course, the learning that I've taken from the campus, which has held me in good stead all these years. If I can just share my very first memory of IIMA, even as you enter from the main gate with the logo, and you're used to seeing that logo, as a child when you're seeing news coverage. I came here for the first time for my group discussions before I was selected. And even at that time, the feeling was one of awe. For me, the campus has always been a very awe-inspiring place. And I come back here almost every year for recruitments. But the feeling of awe hasn't gone away. And that's something that I find really fascinating. And I think I've been able to distill also that, the reason I feel this awe, because this campus for me stands for all-round excellence. You've got the best students, you've got the best faculty that, inspires us. But everything else about the campus is also at the same level, whether you talk about the architecture. My first memory also is of these perfectly manicured lawns and the perfectly kind of spick and span LKP steps. So those are the visuals that I kind of hold of IIMA, and that's like the standard of excellence that the institute inspires. So it's always great to be back. It brings back memories, but also recharges me for the next leg of the journey.
And you joined your company, Oliver Wyman, as a consultant and now are the partner and the co-head. So can you talk about your journey in the company?
Absolutely. As you said, I joined Oliver Wyman as one of the first consultants in India. I think right around here was where the interviews happened for the selection. I think consulting and Oliver Wyman in specific for me has been like an extension of, my MBA or my school. It's just been one of constant learning. The first years in consulting are all about, the toolkit, which is how do you research, how do you analyze, how do you distill a problem that is posed to you, and then how do you go about solving it in a very structured way. But for me also the most fulfilling aspect has been the last few years, where it's so much more about, the one-to-one relationships that you build. And for me, that's been a fascinating kind of growth journey for myself. The trust that you're able to build, and it's some of these moments that stay with you. I can just recount, for example, there's a very senior client who, I had been having discussions for over a year, hoping to be able to work with them on a very strategic project. It's something to be proud of, to be associated with a project like that. And it took over a year and, many discussions. And then, the client was sitting across the table like this, and he said, "Why don't you help me on this problem?" And in that instant, I realized that that's probably not the right problem statement. And even if we were to work, it's probably not in the best outcome. And I just admitted that, saying, I appreciate, the trust you're placing, and this would be fantastic, but I don't think this is what we should work on right now. And just as you're sitting here, I saw like a twinkle in his eye, saying, okay, I like the fact that you're thinking about me before thinking, about what a project could be. So I think it's those moments that matter, that twinkle in the eye that kind of stays with you, and that moment, you know, you built a relationship for life. So I think it's transitioned from the initial years from being very core problem solving skills to now in the more recent years about just how do you be a trusted relationship for the people that you work with.
And can you tell us about how your leadership has contributed to the growth of the consulting team in India? And what kind of challenges did you face?
For me, I think Oliver Wyman has been a fantastic learning ground, as I said. I have evolved and grown in the company. My leadership style is also what I've seen people, that I have learned from. So the people who actually recruited me, the two founding partners for India, 15 years ago on this very campus, I'm still in touch and, have regular connects and seek their guidance. I think consulting at the end of the day is all about a team sport, right? So my leadership style is reflective of what I've learned, but also I think consulting is all about, the people working together, your entire team working together. So just a few months ago, we had an offsite with the engagement managers and associates, which is basically the future leaders of the firm, talking about our next 5-year strategy. And I remember that I was, a part of the decision making. I was a part of thinking about Oliver Wyman's strategy when I was in that position. So I think it's just about making sure that everyone is a part of the vision building. Everyone is part of building the strategy. It's not the leaders of today, but the leaders of tomorrow who are, also thinking about what they would like to build and what they're going to be proud of. And that's what I've seen in my journey as a consultant. That's what we still continue to do. So for me, that I often think that brings actually a very different perspective when you talk to people who are maybe a few years away from being partners in the firm, how they would like to see, and that brings great perspective as well.
Interesting. You had the task of expanding your team many folds when you assumed leadership. Can you share your experience about it?
Yeah, I mean, I took up the co-lead role for Oliver Wyman India in 2021. I had just come out of my second maternity leave, so I was coming back with my hands full, literally. And I think that's the beauty of the firm, that it did place the trust in me to drive the growth and the expansion plans that we had. I think the challenges were all about the growth pains that one has. So I could see that at home, and I could also see it in the office. So it's all about how do we hire the right teams, how do we hire the right leaders, what are the industries that we expand into, what strengthens our positioning, what gives us a greater right to win in the market. So I think these were all the kind of challenges that I was able to work together with the full team on. And I must say that it helps to have a leadership team, both the regional leadership as well as the global leadership team, that is fully kind of committed to the market. So the global CEO was in India last year, will be here again in a couple of months. The entire regional team was in India. So we have the kind of power and the support of the full firm that is basically helping us grow in the market.
And how do you ensure that your team remains innovative and responsive to a rapidly changing market situation?
I think that's a great insight. As a consultant, you're basically going to support clients and work together with clients on probably the most cutting edge problems. So it's really important that you, as an individual, as a team, as a firm, are on top of what are these themes, these trends in the market. So I think a lot of it is preparation. So how do you prepare beforehand? How do you study these themes? How do you see what's happening in the rest of the world or in other industries? And then how do you bring that back to your clients? That's one part of it. But for me, I think most of the learning actually happens, working together with clients, because I think the most advanced, topics will require also very hands-on experience of actually translating this to execution. So I think that's something that you can only do together. So the preparation is important, of course, and the global perspectives, the points of views, the learnings, but also important to be actually just working next to the best clients, the most advanced thinkers in the industry, and that also advances your own thinking.
And as one of the youngest leaders and one of the few female partners in strategy consulting, can you talk about challenges if you faced any?
I'll talk about strategy consulting first as a overall field, and then I'll come to the gender aspect of it as well. So I think consulting, honestly, when I joined, I wasn't sure if I'd stay on for as long as I did. Uh, but it's one where I feel like the learning just doesn't stop, and the growth in terms of your own capabilities, skill sets, your awareness about topics just continues. So every time I felt that, okay, and I take stock, every few years, saying, okay, is this still keeping me happy? The questions I ask myself are, am I learning? Am I enjoying myself? And of course, on the whole, is it a overall positive and a happy feeling? It's not always 100% of the time smooth sailing. There are times when you feel low and you feel the troughs, but on the whole, is it a positive momentum? So I think as long as the answers to those questions come back positive, that's for me a sign that, okay, there's a lot more to be done. Also, I think the learning in consulting comes from the fact that not only are you working on the most advanced topics with the best brains in the industry, which is the clients we work with, but for me, it's been fascinating to be able to, connect the dots. So I work in financial services, I work in automotive, I work in consumer goods, retail, I work in industrials, transportation, so many different practices. So for me, it's fascinating to be able to connect the dots, saying, okay, we think this industry has this challenge, but maybe it's been solved elsewhere. So for example, in financial services, every time there is, some indication of stress in the market, there's very sophisticated approaches for stress testing, saying, in this scenario, how will the book behave? Do we expect, certain scenarios which can cause extreme losses, for example? If you think about it, when you're doing an automotive car or a truck design, you're thinking about parts failure. And it's the same thing. At what point do you expect a certain part to fail? In fact, probably it's even more complicated because different parts interact with each other. So one part failure, how does that impact the system failure? It's the same thing that you would do in financial services, but not as many people connect the dots. So for me, that's been like the constant source of learning as well. How do you kind of connect the dots across different industries?
Can you remember any one assignment, one project that was very memorable and significant for you?
I think I've been very fortunate. Um, there's definitely a few, engagements that come to my mind where I feel like this has been key high point for me. Our work with the regulators, our work with large transformation efforts, supporting clients with over 10,000, 20,000 kind of headcount, transform and set a new vision for the business. Also, for example, working on the field and actually working, visiting the factories and seeing what can you make as tangible improvements. I think there's a varied set of engagements that come to mind, but I'll come back to it's all about the people. So for me, the fact that I have the relationships with some of these people that we were deep in the trenches with, working together, and it could be people that I've worked with 10 years ago, even 12, 15 years ago, who still remember saying, yaad hai, we had done that together. So for me, that's what is like the most memorable. the the small incidents and the instances you remember when you meet someone saying हमने ये किया था. So I think that makes it the most worthwhile for me.
And you spoke about being working with the regulator. So you were part of the SEBI advisory committees. Can you talk about some of the work you've done there itself?
Yeah, I mean that again has been one of the most fulfilling aspects of my career. Um, the regulator SEBI of course sets up committees to seek inputs from various stakeholders, including industry, advisors, and so on. So I've been fortunate to be a part of some of these committees, and I think the most beautiful thing has been the kind of encouragement for different perspectives to be brought on the table. And that's where those committee meetings for me were such an eye-opener in seeing such different perspectives, and the patience to actually make sure we are hearing all perspectives, and everyone's allowed to kind of debate out their points, and everyone's allowed to make sure they are putting everything on the table as they feel. So for me, that has been a great learning, saying even at the most senior levels, how do you bring in those different perspectives, and we are richer because we all take back something after having heard different points of views.
And you were part of many social causes also. You're part of this initiative to bring back the migrants home, Ghar Bhejo campaign during COVID.
Yeah.
So can you talk about more such initiatives that you were part of, other causes that are close to your heart?
So absolutely, I think probably started from campus. There was a very beautiful initiative called Prayas, where it's students from the campus who support in the learning of children from underprivileged backgrounds staying nearby. And there's a small school, and there's an evening set of classes that run in the same premises. And for me, actually being associated with Prayas even while on campus gave me a great deal of satisfaction. So I remember, of course, the learning and the proper academic side of it, but also that all the Prayas kids came and performed on stage at Chaos, and that was something that I was part of, like preparing them, and I think that brings a great deal of satisfaction. So again, whenever I've had the opportunity, Oliver Wyman, of course, as a firm, also we do a lot of projects for non-for-profits. So I've been able to support from a very strategic point of view as well. But also wherever there's been an opportunity, for example, Ghar Bhejo, it happened during COVID. It was a beautiful sense of volunteering, and that for me has been a great source of positive energy. So even beyond Ghar Bhejo now, one thing leads to another. So the team that worked, it was a group of women from IIMs across various IIMs, various batches that kind of came together to volunteer. Through that, I came across another opportunity, and actually it's a school by alumni of IIMA, ISDM. And that led to another opportunity where I've interacted with a number of other non-for-profits like Apni Shala in Mumbai, Educate Girls, which is one of the most prominent NGOs in that sector and in India as a whole. So I think it's just that if you want to do something, make a start, and one thing leads to another, and that's how my story has unfolded.
And what advice would you give to somebody who wants to work in strategy consulting in India?
I think three things that come to mind, probably going back to what I said and what I've taken from campus. One, of course, the pursuit of excellence, like everything, attention to the smallest detail, and making sure you're pushing your own boundaries and pushing your own thinking towards what you're proud of. So that's for me number one. Second, it's all about the people. So the people, not just the clients, but also the entire team you work with, your mentors, your peers. It's all about learning from each other. And the third one I'd say is, I've been also very fortunate that I have a great support system. The support system for me is not just, mentors and people who guide me, my teams, but also my, great family at home. So as I said, my husband, who is a batchmate from IIMA, Um, we have two lovely daughters, Nandini and Ishani, and of course our family. So my parents-in-law. I think that's the entire kind of army that it takes, or a village that it takes to make sure we succeed in all aspects, not just professionally, but also on the personal front and the family front, and a great network of friends as well. Many of them from the campus, and now we exchange notes not just on the office or profession side of it, but also on kids and their schools and their education. So I think that makes a huge difference and kind of carries you through. So commitment to excellence, it's all about the people and the relationships that you build. And third, it's about having your village around you to kind of egg you on and keep you going. I think I missed one question around the gender aspect around consulting. So for me, I think when I started out, there weren't as many examples of women in strategy consulting, but increasingly there are more. I was very fortunate that when I was kind of, in my early years in consulting, I had a few very close mentors who were women, who were partners or principals in the firm. Um, I was also part of Women of Oliver Wyman, and I remember there's a beautiful initiative called Sharing Stories, where you just see more examples of people who traverse the journey before you, and that for me was a great source of inspiration. There's also a fantastic book which I still remember a few key lines from, the book by Sheryl Sandberg called Lean In. And the one thing that stayed with me was, don't leave before you need to leave. Very often, and I thought the same way, saying, okay, how will I manage a family, and how will I kind of continue on my consulting journey? And I just decided, taking inspiration from the book, that I won't leave before I need to. At any point, the fabulous thing about having a degree from IIMA and then the consulting experience is that I will have options at any point. So let me see how it goes, and always it's been a wonderful experience. Whenever I've come to a point where I needed something, it was just about me asking for it, and I got the support that I needed. So for me, that's probably an important message as well, saying don't leave before you need to leave. Ask for help, both at your professional workplace, but also ask for help at home. I have the entire village, as I said, who supports me, and of course Pratik and I are a team, and we work together. So it's both of us, kind of balancing things out, that we can keep our careers growing and also keep the family aspect and the family side of it growing as well.
Thank you for the wonderful answer. And what do you hope to accomplish in the future, professionally and personally?
I think for me, I hope that there's a lot more to come in the coming years. This is for me a great pit stop. It's a point to recharge yourself and think about what next. So I do want to continue on the same learning journey that I've been on. You come to a point also where you realize that there are a number of things that worked for you so far, but now you need to build certain new skills. So I think that learning journey has to grow. I want to also make sure that the relationships that I've built, both with my teams, some alumni of Oliver Wyman who are great friends, my clients. So how can I continue to be true and committed and still giving in those relationships? And then of course it's also about how one continues to be at peace and happy on the whole. So pursuing my hobbies, pursuing whatever else that I need to, and keep the family together and energized as always.
Okay. Thank you so much, Aarti, for your time and talking to us.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Always great to come back, and thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.